Have you ever stepped into your garden on a humid July morning, the dew still clinging to the leaves, and felt that quiet letdown wash over you? The tulips and peonies that burst with such promise in spring have long since faded, leaving behind a sea of tired green that feels more like an obligation than an invitation. I've stood there myself, coffee in hand, wondering why my little plot promised so much, yet delivered only 3 fleeting weeks of colour before settling into months of quiet disappointment. That's not a garden that sings with life, it's a space that simply waits. But what if the ground beneath your feet could keep giving, month after month, from the soft hush of late spring right through the first sharp bite of frost? Over years of digging, mulching, and learning from my own mistakes, I've discovered a handful of perennials that refuse to quit, plants that weave colour and movement into every corner of the season while feeding the bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds that make a garden feel truly alive. These aren't flashy one-hit wonders or plants that demand constant fussing. They're steady companions that build soil health through their deep roots, support biodiversity without chemicals, and turn an ordinary backyard into something that feels generous and whole. In gardens across the United States, from the cool, misty coasts of the Pacific Northwest to the humid summers of the Southeast, and over in Europe where temperate rains soak the soil in Britain or the shorter seasons challenge growers in Germany and France, they perform with quiet reliability. What matters most is choosing varieties suited to your spot, giving them the right start in rich, living soil, and letting their natural habits shine. Let me share what I've learned from my own borders, where these plants have transformed bare patches into flowing tapestries of colour and motion, soft edges and pathways that keep on giving. There's a special magic in plants that hug the ground and spill over edges, softening hard lines and inviting you to wander closer. One of my favourites for this role is Catmint, with its soft lavender blue haze that settles low like a fragrant cloud. In my garden, I tuck it along a gravel path where it drapes gracefully, releasing a minty scent whenever I brush past. It begins in late May here in my zone, and with one thoughtful cutback, about a third of the plant right after the first heavy flush in early summer, it rebounds fuller and more generous, carrying that misty bloom well into October. Bees adore it. I've watched bumblebees tumble through the flowers from dawn until dusk, and the plant spreads gently without ever bullying its neighbours. For gardeners in cooler European climates like the UK or northern France, where winters stay damp, it thrives in well-drained soil amended with compost, handling partial shade under young trees better than most. In hotter American zones, a bit of afternoon relief keeps it from wilting, but overall it asks so little and gives so much. Pair it with hardy geraniums, especially the vigorous Rosanne variety, and you've got a living carpet that blooms from April straight through September. I remember the first time I planted a few between stepping stones. By midsummer they had woven into a soft mound of violet-blue flowers that danced in the breeze. These true cranesbills are nothing like the annuals sold in pots at big box stores. They're tough perennials that return stronger each year in zones 4 through 8. Or the equivalent milder spots across Europe's maritime regions. A light trim after the initial wave encourages fresh growth, and they tolerate both full sun and dappled shade under roses or alongside hostas. Hoverflies and small native bees flock to their open faces, and in my experience they're forgiving of the clay-heavy soil I started with, as long as I work in plenty of organic matter to keep it loose. Then there's Scabiosa, the pincushion flower, which looks almost too delicate to be reliable, yet blooms with surprising stamina from June into late August, sometimes October if I deadhead faithfully. Its lavender, white, or deep burgundy blooms sit on slender stems that sway like wildflowers in a meadow. I cut armfuls for the kitchen table, and they last beautifully indoors. In my border, it fills gaps near the front where butterflies, painted ladies, and swallowtails land like tiny jewels. For those in colder European winters or USDA zones 3 through 7, it appreciates gritty soil that doesn't stay soggy. A light mulch of shredded leaves in fall protects the crown without smothering it. The mistake I made early on was letting it self-seed too freely in one spot, but now I simply snip spent heads when I want to control the spread, and the result feels intentional rather than weedy. Reliable summer workhorses that bridge the gaps. Mid-season can feel like the garden's quietest stretch, but certain perennials step up exactly when others fade. Echinacea, the cone flower, has evolved far beyond the stiff purple spikes many of us grew up with. Modern varieties in salmon, golden yellow, creamy white, and even bicolors bring painterly warmth to the border from early summer clear through fall. In my garden, I leave the spent cones standing all winter. Goldfinches perch on them like living ornaments, picking at seeds while the stalks catch frost in delicate patterns. These plants pull in more pollinators per square foot than almost anything else I grow, and they adapt coast to coast in zones 3 through 9, or across much of Europe's temperate zones with good drainage. Southern gardeners in humid areas might offer a touch of afternoon shade to prevent scorching, while northern ones rejoice in their cold hardiness. Right beside them, black-eyed Susans bring golden cheer that lasts from late June until the first hard frost. Newer disease-resistant types stay clean and lush instead of spotting up by August, their chocolate centers glowing against the yellow petals. Monarchs pause here during migration, fueling up before the long journey south, and I've watched whole families of butterflies drift through in September. Mass them along a fence, or let them naturalize in a meadow corner. They handle zones 3 through 9 with ease, thriving in drier European summers too. A simple layer of compost in spring keeps them vigorous without extra feeding. Perennial Salvia fills the notorious July lull with spikes of deep violet, cobalt, or burgundy that hold their intensity even in blistering heat. Deadhead regularly, snipping back to the next set of leaves, and fresh stems appear in just 2 weeks. In my patch, I plant it in front of tall, ornamental grasses for striking contrast, and the hummingbirds zoom in like clockwork. Varieties suited to hotter, humid southern zones or Mediterranean-like European pockets handle the stress beautifully, while cooler climates enjoy their steady performance without worry. Hummingbird favourites and tubular blooms that draw wings. Nothing quickens the garden quite like the whir of hummingbird wings, and a few perennials seem designed just for them. Penstemon, with its tubular flowers in scarlet, purple, pink, or lavender, evolved right here in North America and feels at home from rocky mountain slopes to humid lowlands. I plant clusters in sunny, well-drained spots, and by Memorial Day, the ruby-throated visitors in my eastern garden are already darting between blooms. The key I learned the hard way: resist the urge to cut back in fall. Those old stems shield the crown through winter freezes, especially in zones 4 through 6 or similar chillier European spots. Leave them standing, and the plant returns stronger each spring. Agastache, often called hyssop, takes that hummingbird magic to another level. Push a few into the ground, and within days something with wings has claimed it. Its midsummer to frost blooms in coral, magenta, peach and lilac hit their stride when other plants tire, turning the border into a late-season feast. Sharp drainage is non-negotiable. Gritty soil amended with compost prevents rot in wet winters, whether you're in the American Southwest or rainy parts of the UK. In containers for marginal zones, it gives a full season without winter worries. Crocosmia adds dramatic flair with arching stems of fiery orange-red that resemble living flames in July and August. I mass it near a window so I can watch hummingbirds hover at the tubular blooms from my kitchen. In northern zones or cooler European gardens, a thick blanket of shredded leaves in November insulates the corms against freeze-thaw cycles. Come spring, they emerge ready to light up the scene again, foliage stars and multi-season performers that earn their keep year-round. Some plants earn their place even when flowers are scarce. Heuchera or coral bells offers delicate wands of coral or pink from late spring into midsummer, but its true gift is the foliage, deep burgundy, caramel, lime or silver, that holds colour from early spring until December. In shady spots under trees or along north-facing walls where little else thrives, it brings quiet beauty without complaint. Zones 4 through 9 suit it well, including many European temperate areas. In colder spots, check for heaving after winter thaws and gently press crowns back into the soil with a light mulch layer. Amsonia, or blue star, delivers 2 shows in one. Late April brings star-shaped powder blue flowers that glow with a rare clarity. Then the willowy foliage stays neat all summer before turning brilliant golden yellow in October. Native to many American regions, it settles quickly in the mid-Atlantic or southeast and pairs beautifully with coneflowers nearby. A gentle cutback in late June keeps it compact for better fall impact, and the dried stalks provide nesting spots for native bees over winter. Structural natives and tall accents that anchor the garden. For height and presence without staking, Baptisia stands tall with violet blue or creamy spikes in mid-spring, followed by rattling seed pods that add texture into fall. Its deep taproot laughs at drought once established, making it ideal for zones 3 through 9 or drier European summers. Plant it where you want it to stay. Moving a mature clump is nearly impossible, but the patience pays off as it grows into a self-supporting column that anchors the border for decades. Veronicastrum, or Culver's root, commands attention with tall, candelabra-like spikes of white or soft lavender, rising 4 to 6 feet from July into September. In the back of my border, paired with grasses and Echinacea in front, it becomes the plant visitors always ask about. Strong stems hold through storms, and it supports over 100 species of native insects as a keystone plant in Midwestern and Mid-Atlantic ecosystems. Give it room and rich, moist soil, and it spreads slowly into impressive clumps. Chelone the turtlehead brings late-season surprise with hooded pink flowers that truly resemble open turtle mouths from August through October. It loves consistently damp spots, rain gardens, pond edges, or low wet areas, thriving in zones 3 through 8 or similar moist European climates. Bumblebees are its primary guests, their size perfectly matched to the bloom, turning a stand into a buzzing hub when colonies peak in late summer. Vertical drama that lifts the eye. Clematis transforms any vertical space, from arbors to fences or even through shrubs. With varieties in purple, burgundy, pink, white and bicolors, choosing an early, mid and late bloomer for the same structure gives continuous color from May into September. Plant the head in sun but keep roots cool with mulch and a low ground cover. That simple habit saves many a plant in northern winters or cooler European zones. Native bees find early pollen here when little else offers it. Hands-on care across seasons and climates. Success with these plants comes down to working with your soil and climate, rather than against them. Start with living soil, compost generously at planting to encourage deep roots that seek moisture and nutrients naturally. In my experience, a yearly top dressing of leaf mold or well-rotted manure keeps everything thriving without synthetic feeds. Mulch around the base to retain moisture and suppress weeds, but pull it back slightly from crowns to prevent rot, especially in wetter European winters or humid American southeast summers. Deadheading and cutbacks are gentle rhythms rather than chores. For many, like Salvia or Catmint, snipping spent blooms redirects energy into fresh flowers instead of seeds. In cooler climates, think New England or the British Isles, a hard cutback in early summer encourages denser growth and better fall performance. Watch for common pitfalls. Overwatering Penstemon or Agastache leads to crown rot, so test drainage by digging a small hole and filling it with water. If it lingers more than an hour, amend with grit or raised beds. Heuchera heaving in freeze-thaw zones is fixed with a spring check and gentle pressing back down. In hotter, drier regions, afternoon shade and deeper planting help. In cooler, moister ones, full sun and good airflow prevent mildew. Companion planting turns good into magical. Tuck Agastache near Echinacea and Rudbeckia for a pollinator highway. The tubular blooms complement the daisy shapes perfectly. Heuchera under trees with hardy geraniums creates layered shade interest, while clematis scrambling through Baptisia adds vertical color without competing for space. These combinations build biodiversity, drawing beneficial insects that keep pests in check naturally. No sprays needed. Throughout the season, small routines make all the difference. In spring, I divide overgrown clumps of Catmint or Salvia every few years to keep them vigorous and share extras with neighbors. Summer means carrying a basket for deadheading while I wander, turning maintenance into quiet joy. Fall brings seed saving or leaving stems for winter interest and wildlife. Come winter, a thick mulch layer protects marginal plants in colder zones, and I dream of next year's blooms while the garden rests under snow or frost. In the end, a garden that carries colour and life from late spring through the first killing frost isn't about luck or a bigger budget. It's about listening to the soil, choosing companions that truly belong in your climate, and letting nature do what it does best. I've watched my own patch evolve from those early disappointing years into a space that hums with bees, flickers with butterflies, and draws hummingbirds like old friends. Yours can too, one thoughtful planting at a time. Step outside this season, dig a little hole, and try just one or two of these steady performers. Watch how the garden begins to breathe with you season after season, offering small wins and quiet wonders right at your feet. There's nothing quite like it. The soil knows, and so will you.